In today's episode, I'm joined with David. We've been speaking for a while now. We met each other through Facebook. David got in contact with me when I put out a post just saying that I was looking for people to come on the show, or any like-minded people who are currently going through sobriety or who are sober. And David reached out. We've been for a couple of coffees and became friends through it.
Well, hang on, steady on. We're not.
Okay, we're not quite friends quite yet. Acquaintances.
Yeah, no, we are.
And he's always wanted to sit down and sort of explain or go through his story, his journey, and speak about what it's like to begin sobriety, to be sober, and obviously to live with ADHD
And suspected autism.
Yeah. So he's what did you call yourself? An armchair expert in?
Yeah, I mean, I've just through necessity, I've learned absolutely everything I can about ADHD, and through that the brain from like a neurobiology point of view, because if there is an autistic side of me, in order for me to understand and really get behind something, in order to find a solution, I need to be able to understand the mechanics. So like psychology alone is a bit guessworky. I can't be doing that. I need to understand the mechanisms behind it. So yeah, I've become a bit of a nerd about that kind of thing.
And when was it you got sober again?
So it was the 21st of June 2017. So I'm going to be 9 years sober, possibly have dyscalculia as well. So if someone wants to just work that out, but I think 9 years sober on the 21st of June this year coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how's that been? How's the journey been?
Oh, it's worked out great. Yeah, it's funny actually. I sorry, private joke, but you'll understand why in a minute. But so basically, when I was a kid, immediately at school, I couldn't do what other people could, and it was very difficult because my parents, who just wanted the best for me, who worked to give me and my brother opportunities. It's obviously very difficult for them because back then, I was born in 1981. I know I look much younger. You don't have to say it. It was just the wrong time because by the 90s, by the time I got to school, that was just when people started hearing about attention deficit disorder. And all we really knew in the UK about it is like stories of, bloody Americans giving their kids speed kind of thing. And it was just dismissed. But because it doesn't really, well, in my case, and I think that obviously it's a spectrum, and that there's a whole mix of symptoms and factors, which means that everyone's experience is different. But I'm a good communicator, I'm creative, and I'm intelligent enough for people to see no reasonable reason why I shouldn't be able to do at least what my peers do: study and learn, pass exams, get a degree, get a job, that kind of thing. So you go to school with all of the well-intended weight of expectations of people that you just want to please, like your parents and stuff. And the problem is what basically happens is you sort of get plucked out of the ether into this world, and then these people that are like, they're the people that you trust, are your parents, and of course they're well-meaning as well. But basically the message is, right, you're going to go through this thing now, but don't worry, you got this. Just do your best. I remember my dad always said. The problem is, I realise now the flaw in that is that there was never any discussion or agreement around metrics or deliverables in terms of what my best was.
Yeah.
But it was a reasonable belief to think, well, your best is to at least, do well at school. But also because good communicator, creative and stuff, in addition to that, you start to get your parents and teachers and parents, friends and stuff that are also saying you've got loads of potential. So you get this message that, hey, don't worry about it. Not only are you going to be able to do what your peers are going to do, but you're probably going to do even better.
Yeah.
And then from day one at school, where shit gets real, like proper school, this cognitive dissonance of trying and failing and being so stung by the experience that you don't know what's going on, that you think, oh, it's fine, that was just, tomorrow will be fine. But the problem is, what then starts to happen, I realise now looking back, is that you start to wire your brain to lie or mask. Because if you think of it this way, as we were discussing earlier, if you've got ADHD, you're born, is my current understanding, but depends where you go on the internet, and things change all the time. But you have insufficient levels of, this isn't the only part of it, but essentially insufficient levels of dopamine, right? And dopamine, it's involved in so many crucial parts of us, like schizophrenia is too much dopamine, because your pattern recognition goes to the point where you think you see meaning in everything, and you just, Parkinson's, it helps us control our motor function. So Parkinson's medication is ADHD medication. Our ability to perceive time, which it turns out is humans measure the passage of time through sort of automatic blinking that our autonomic nervous system handles, along with breathing and stuff. And the frequency and the cadence of which you blink automatically, if you think of it like a shutter speed on a camera, it turns out that system is also governed by dopamine, so it's pretty important. But the essential part of it is it is the fluid, if you like, that runs this ancient mechanism that was one of the earliest parts of our brain that developed, called the dopamine reward pathway, right? And because our brain evolved roughly in 3 different stages. We've got the limbic system, all the basic fight, flight stuff that you need to stay alive, nothing too complicated, including no need to measure time, because all you need to do is there's only now or not now. That was when we were still lizards, basically. And then we had a sort of mammal 1.0 additional extension to update to that, and then the mammal 2.0, right? Anyway, this mechanism is, it's sort of impressively simple, and basically how it works is this. In a typical brain, you've got a baseline, comfortable, humming along level of dopamine. When you need to do something, so let's say you need to go out and hunt to eat food because otherwise you're going to die, your nervous system sends you a signal that you need to do that, but it accompanies it with a brief spike in dopamine. And this was never an issue back then. But these days it is. But basically, if you get elevated levels of dopamine, it bleeds into pleasure, which is when we start coming along with things like cocaine, amphetamines and stuff like that. It was a sort of unforeseen backdoor hack in this system. But anyway, so you get this momentary period of like, oh, that feels a bit nice. And then the dopamine reward pathway deliberately drops you straight down into a deficit, into this sort of trough. And that motivates you. That's unpleasant enough to motivate you to get up and do the thing that you relate to feeling good. And you do the thing, and the reward pathway rewards you by restoring you to a healthy balance of dopamine. So if you think of it that way, like everyone talks about dopamine these days and stuff, but there isn't really much discussion around what dopamine actually feels like. There's a lot of discussion around what it does. People think of it as like pleasure and stuff. No, that's only really at the high end. But if you think about it logically, if you have a system that keeps you thinking everything's all right until there's something that needs to be done, spikes you, and then drops you into under baseline of dopamine, which causes discomfort of some kind until you go and do the thing that restores you back to baseline. A lack of dopamine, therefore, must be a feeling, and I can see this now in myself, of anxiety. It's angstiness. Shit, there's stuff outstanding that I need to do, right? So if you're born in that trough relative to sort of neurotypical brains, it means that you're born into a state of mild but constant anxiety. But the thing is, it's all you know from the moment you're born. You don't know that because you assume it's the same for everyone else, and no one else around you knows it. So you go through life thinking, well, I mean, everyone else seems to be fine, so I guess this must just be normal. And then you hit the reality of school. As soon as you start to try and fail, every failure is another thing outstanding that's accumulated. Which means that your level of anxiety of what, the best word I can think of to describe low dopamine, grows and grows and grows without you knowing it, to the point where it's fucking screaming at you. This is like the most ancient autonomic nervous system part of it's just fucking screaming at you. Excuse me, can I swear?
Yeah, you can swear.
It's a bit late for that. So, and then of course, because dopamine also, governs things like impulse control, we end up being the kids that when you get to that age, we tend to be the ones that say yes to drugs instead of no to drugs. And then, you know, sometimes you find something which has, you know, a positive impact on dopamine or anything. But for me, I started out with a bunch of mates with all the fun stuff like mushrooms and stuff. And so I was, you know, I was looking for crazy, like I was looking for something else. But I ended up, when you sort of work your way through them, I ended up getting stuck on the ones that are, you know, if you look at them, they are the most pointless drugs. So cocaine, for example, it's really expensive. It's really short-lived. And it's not that fun because most stepped on coke and stuff is basically, you sit there after the first line, you get a good hour, but then the rest of the night is sitting there being preoccupied with, hang on, do I still feel good? Or do I not? Or God. But basically what happens is once you get through to those, for me anyway, the sort of dopaminergic substances that explode dopamine to those like unforeseen levels of like pleasure. For the first time in your life, even though you think you are getting high the same as all your mates, the first time in your life without even knowing it was an issue, your anxiety disappears, and to you that's high. And that's if you've got that far through teenage, through that really intense period of trying and failing and, you know, trying to maintain hope but not understanding what's going on, and then the feedback from the people around you that are rooting for you starts to turn into frustration and accusation that you're lazy, you're lying when you say you're trying your best, you just don't want it enough, you're ungrateful for the opportunities, because no one knows any better. You think, okay, well that must be what it is. And then just at that point of the most intense period of supreme anxiety and constant fear, you put something in your mouth or you put something up your nose that instantly eliminates anxiety. I mean, that's pretty intoxicating, and no wonder like we end up getting stuck on it.
There's a couple of things you said there. First of all was like when you're saying people sort of have that constant dread of anxiety with them, and it's not until, you know, they have to do something where the anxiety gets so bad that they feel they have to do it, and they do it, and they get that dopamine spike. Do you think that's a way of sort of rewarding or increasing that dopamine spike? Because you know you're going to get, you know you're going to feel good by completing with the task you need to do, but instead of doing it earlier, you wait until last minute. It's as if you have that. There's excitement in the delay. Do you know what I mean? It's that adrenaline that you know time's ticking and you haven't done it yet. So when you do it, you get that, maybe, I don't know, is it like that extra spike because you're like, I've done that just in time. That's fucking. And there's like, do you know, you know, when like, I don't know, when I don't know, people shouldn't probably be promoting it, but you know, when you watch a football game and your team scores in the last minute of the game,
I've never followed anything.
Okay, well,
wrong
people
message.
might know.
But yeah, no, I get it.
Get that
people
sort
seem to like it.
That instant, that feels better scoring that goal than scoring it, say 20 minutes before, because it's like that was the last time we could have scored and we did it. So the eruption is louder, the celebration is bigger. And I'm just thinking maybe there's something in that, in the sense of, if I do it last minute, then it makes me feel even better.
Yeah, like the more drama and the more it becomes snatching victory from the jaws of defeat, there's more to it. I don't know. I mean, the way I think of it is that this system, our biology literally hasn't evolved much since the Stone Age, right? Our society and technology and our access to things that can increase our dopamine is so we've got this sort of Stone Age system that we're trying to apply to, and you know, that's being subjected to a completely different context. But I think that going back to that thing about the waiting to a point where the sort of anxiety is screaming, dopamine reward pathways is actually way more subtle than that, because all it was meant to do is make you feel, I've got to do something, give you a taste of what it feels like to have it done, and then make you just mildly uncomfortable enough to get you to do it. It's not supposed to plunge you into crippling anxiety, because it's all about survival. The more anxious we get, the less we're able to actually go and do the thing. So it was actually a really simple, delicate system thrown into a modern context. And in terms of like, I mean, I've heard it said, and I've read it, that the ADHD system is only motivated by, you know, we can't easily automatically direct our focus and stay on task, not because we have a deficit of attention, we've actually got a surplus. So if you think of attention as like a radio dial, as and when you need to, you can block out other sounds, other noises, other stuff like that, and just focus on the thing that you're doing. And there is enough sort of dopamine in your system to make that rewarding enough that you can stay focused on it. We don't have that dial, which means that our brain is literally attending to and processing everything all at the same time, which is actually which is one of the reasons why I think there's a lot of power in an ADHD mind, especially one that is late diagnosed, because if you think about it, if you got this far, my brain has like 17 different concepts or theories or problems or pieces of information, data streams that's processing at the same time, plus all the usual shit of like, that's just in the present, but you're also like anxious for the future, so you're even thinking about the future, and you're depressed about the past, so you're all the time, which means that our ability for cognitive load, we're really good in a crisis because we seem to have this delayed onset of emotions. It means that doesn't get in the way, and we can be super focused at dealing with something which otherwise be overwhelming, because our brain is already well practiced in running 17 different data streams at the same time. But because we can't direct it at will, for some reason it seems to be that the only thing that really lets the norepinephrine kick in, which is that tunnel vision, is...
What was that word again?
Norepinephrine. It's a posh way of saying it's the adrenaline as it exists in the brain, basically. But so basically that's something among many other things, which is that and dopamine are the two sort of neurotransmitters or catecholamines, technically neuromodulators, that people talk about in relation to ADHD. And that is basically the thing that, or the one of the main things that in the wild, right? If
pull it out a little bit.
What, that way?
Yeah.
Okay.
A bit too spiky.
Am I speaking too
No,
much?
it's just I keep seeing loads of spikes.
All right, sorry.
No worries.
The more I get into a conversation, the louder I get. So I'll try and remember to.
It's all right.
But basically, that gives us a tunnel vision where you're like, okay, I was just in the middle of attending to my baby, building a fire, whatever, and all of a sudden there's a bear coming out of the woods.
Yeah.
So in that moment, what is essentially brain adrenaline spikes, and it gives you that tunnel vision to be able to forget everything else long enough to focus on that thing to survive. Work perfectly then, but again, like I say, we're throwing
we're
this,
evolved now from
exactly,
that,
and so the conditions around us are completely different. But so I think maybe it's just something to do with the fact that the only way that our brain seems to be able to access that dopamine or norepinephrine enough to get the traits that you need in that moment is if something goes from something bland and banal on your to-do list to absolute fucking disaster if you don't do it.
Well, then it's an emergency, like the bear.
Exactly. I mean, if you look at this, so we won't bore everyone with the story, but I've got a couple of days to basically vacate my apartment.
And that's one of the reasons why we're doing it now, finally got around to it.
Welcome to my apartment, or what will be my apartment.
Enkel Studio.
But it's, I know, this is why I really wanted to do it here, because I had plans to do something in here as well. Anyway, do you know what? It's just sort of stuff. Yeah. But basically, it's a pretty difficult situation. The reason for it is that I've been unemployed for about a year in Copenhagen.
You know, you've gone off now onto a different story, right? But that's fine if you want to continue here.
I mean, that's how we're two people with ADHD trying to have a conversation. So,
what road are we going down?
I have no idea. But it just is an example of circling back to my original point. Now that you've reminded me that I had one,
I just thought I'd stop you.
There's a lot to do. It basically involves trying to work out how much of my stuff I can salvage, how much of the kids' stuff I can salvage. They'll go to their mum, so they'll be fine. Loads of practical stuff to do, very short time to plan it, and I've had most of the week to do it, but I've been so crippled by it that I've basically been in what I now believe is something that's sort of low-key bothered my whole life, is what they call autistic inertia, where you get to the point where you're like, there's too many variables, I can't see all the steps, I don't know what the end game looks like, so my autonomic nervous system is going to put me into a freeze response, which is basically in nature you either get a sympathetic nervous system, I think I've got this the right way round, which is for action, fight or flight. So that's basically adrenaline, blood to your limbs, ready to fight. If a judgment is made by the autonomic nervous system that there's a chance of survival, if it makes a judgment that actually you're fucked, it does the opposite. The parasympathetic nervous system takes blood away from the limbs, it basically shuts down to emergency power, shuts down your cognitive function. So it does the exact opposite to prepare you to basically curl up and die and hope it's quick. Again, Stone Age, perfect. These days, not so
So
good.
are our brains just not evolved then, and other people's are?
No, it's not that. I don't believe that. I mean, no one knows for sure, but I don't believe that.
Because the way, and I know it's not necessarily true, but yeah, I'm just sort of somewhat, jokingly asking the question, because if someone else's brain is adapted to, withstand the constraints of current society, and we're struggling to adapt, is it because our brains are still in the Stone Age? No. And their brains are now in the 21st century.
All our brains are still in the Stone Age. And that the thing I love about evolution is that it's predictable, and things only survive for a reason. And it's not even I don't believe a conscious thing. It's just cause and effect. So basically, we are all human beings, roughly the same genetic template, but all with gene mutations. There's rarely any sort of duplicated perfection in nature, right?
It goes by look at colour of eyes and stuff like that.
Exactly. So we end up with, everyone's got roughly the same ingredients, but everyone's got them in slightly varied proportions, right? But all that needs to happen is for a particular variation, which will present as a particular trait, to either increase the chances of that organism living long enough to reproduce and pass on, and therefore pass on their genes, or at least not get in the way of it enough to prevent them from doing that. That's that. So there is a reason why, we are here. We've always been here. The problem is, and it's the thing about humans that we tend to have, and again, I think it's the autistic side of me, because I'm actually quite a sort of empathetic person, but I also, there's sort of simplicity and clarity, and just an explanation to me is like, that's the goal, right? So, but humans have this, we've got really short memories. So if you look at things like homosexuality, we exist in a very brief moment in time where, for various reasons, religion, whatever, it's deemed as wrong, right? And it wasn't
the Greeks or the Romans that used to?
Everyone was at it. Do you know why? Because sex is pleasurable.
There you go, back to dopamine.
It means that it's one of those things that mammals have engaged in recreationally all the time. Now, I don't really understand the reasons for it. All I can do is think about it in the terms of my own experience. For me, sexual arousal, a person that I find beautiful or physically attractive or whatever, it either does or it doesn't. I didn't choose it, but that's kind of the beauty of it. It's just a thing that you just sort of give into. But, the fact that there are people who the same sex has that, effect on them. It means that we're all the same thing, just different variations of the same set of genetic traits. And actually, I quite like sex, big fan of love. I'm almost quite pissed off that I'm not bi, because there's 50%, half the potential
you're
opportunity
ignoring
for that. But it either does or it doesn't. So it's, you're just drawn to wherever you are. So sorry, I guess what I'm saying is, we exist in this really arrogant thing where we think that we are an incredibly intelligent species, which we are. We're not that far off octopuses. But also, people always say things like, well, we put a man on the moon. I didn't. I don't know what role you played in that. But
I don't think that was.
We tend to default to achievements that we think describe all of us. But the fact is we're constantly finding out. We only know, there's so much stuff that we don't know. And actually, I've got a book somewhere here that was my granddad's, which is basically all about Socrates, right? And this guy, it's absolute fucking legend. I'm on a completely different tangent.
Your granddad is Socrates?
Socrates. Socrates.
Yeah.
So basically, first of all, Socrates, he's the one philosopher that he never wrote anything down. We only know about him and what he believed because his students, like Plato, wrote it down, right? But at the time in ancient Athens, philosophy was a sort of a pursuit of the wealthier class who had the time to engage in these leisure activities. And it became a sort of thing where you go to the town square and it sort of became co-opted by these people as a means of ego stroking. Whereas actually what philosophy is really supposed to be about is discussing opposing viewpoints, both sides with good intent, on the knowledge that, well, actually, I've got this viewpoint at the moment, but it's flexible to change based on stuff that I don't know. Mm-hmm. So what you're both doing is refining opposing viewpoints to get to truth, and not even truth from like a moral perspective, but truth just from a efficiency perspective. Mm-hmm. Because the closer you have a grasp to truth, the more effective and efficient solutions for it are going to be, right? So, but what would happen is all these sort of rich Ponzi fuckers would come down to the town square, and it would be all about being right. Mm-hmm. And I've never been that interested in being right.
That's where we are now in the society, just about being right.
I know, man. It's so frustrating because it's such a waste, and there's so much going on.
And that's what I've been saying for a while now. You hear a lot of people talking about their different stances or points of views and wherever they stand politically, and I look at it now and I'm just thinking everyone's just deciding whose hate is more justified, because there doesn't seem to be any compassion or empathy or love from anyone. It's
all insecurity. People have to reinforce
which side is worse.
Right. And it's that's a podcast series, man. But anyway, this guy Socrates came along, right, who apparently he was the son of a fishwife, whatever that is, so basically poor. He was ugly as fuck. I mean, there were drawings of him and stuff, and he's just like pig ugly, right? Not that that's, he was a prodigious drinker, apparently. But he would, even though he wasn't trying to, just because the other people he was debating with, their starting position was flawed because their aim was wrong, which means that you're never going to be right if you have a predetermined goal, which is just to not be wrong.
Yeah.
And he was engaging as a sort of an honest broker in it, and he would basically just embarrass them all, right? But the smartest thing that he said, aside from the story of his life and death and stuff, just like if you want to talk about principles and integrity, even if it means you end up dying, mate, this guy, I'll tell the story another time, but he uttered the wisest words I think that any human being has ever uttered, which is basically, all I know that I know nothing. The modern equivalent of that is you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
So as long as you're focused on just finding a solution, and therefore the closest thing to truth, and you're flexible enough to know that, look, this is my current belief based on what I know currently, but I'm wise enough to know that I don't know everything, so it means I have the flexibility to change. I can't remember how I got into that, man. Anyway, basically,
you're asking me for help.
Fucking hell, can we wind back the tape? I'm sorry, everyone. I apologise. Anyway, I guess. The point of what I'm saying is this whole idea that we haven't evolved or something, that's bullshit. Everyone that exists today, the traits that we all have, are all different variations of slightly different mixes of the same genetic blueprint.
Yeah.
The only reason why they're all still present today, and there's nothing new about ADHD, there's just new understanding and access, not just to diagnostic criteria, which even the DSM, the Diagnostical Statistical Manual thing, gets updated, because until the 70s, for example, the DSM-3 or 4, it was believed that homosexuality was a type of sociopathy.
Okay.
And so, do you know what I mean? Obviously, that's dumb as fuck. But even the DSM is the extent of what we think we understand at that time. But with access to the internet, and I think the conditions of everyone having time to actually see the things about themselves that they're struggling with, and trying to do the same thing every day in a completely new environment at home whilst looking after the kids and stuff, having access to people's lived experience about it, which has enabled so many more people to be like, all right, well, I had an idea of what ADHD is, doesn't really make sense to me. But then other people are describing what their day-to-day life is. Fuck me, I've got ADHD.
Yeah.
But the only reason why any of our genetic traits still exist today, like I say, is either because they weren't bad enough to prevent us from passing on the genes, or they helped us stay alive long enough. If you think about Industrial Revolution, it's all about efficiency. It's all about squeezing everyone through the same process of education, getting into the workforce. The problem is, as soon as you narrow the scope of what is required and what isn't required, you are naturally going to disenfranchise accidentally a whole sort of swathe of the human population who their mix of things makes that harder for them than others. But if you think about ADHD, back in the day, people with autism would have been the ones that built our cities. That they would have developed civilization to plan out agriculture and things like this.
Yeah.
People with ADHD, autistic people are also just as high in empathy as others. That's a whole other conversation. Again, it's just a misunderstanding, ironically caused by lack of empathy, but from neurotypicals because they can't understand their experience. ADHD though, super high in empathy, ability to keep an eye on everything that's going on at the same time, insane pattern recognition, and in a life or death situation, absolute tunnel vision whilst keeping calm, delayed emotional reaction. If you're leading a hunting party out into the jungle, you've got a team amongst you, you need an eye on where they are so that you can sort of rally them as resources, but also make sure they're safe. And you are in this environment which is just so packed full of stimuli, but you're able to hear a twig snap over there. You've got all the mixings to be able to lead a hunting party, increase the chances of hunting food, and minimizing death or injury.
Casualties.
So that's what people with that mix of traits, when you've got a culture getting together and you're like, shit, what do we need to do? Right, we need to do that. Aside from knowing all the things you need to do being the result of a broad range of input from people with different ways of thinking, that's how you divide resource, right? You obviously wouldn't know you've ADHD, but you're good at that, so you do the hunting stuff. Right, we need to work out how the fuck we're gonna go from surviving off just fruit and veg off the trees to actually agriculture. So you're pretty good at that. You've got some ideas. That's going to be an autistic person, and so on. So I just don't believe that even things like disorder and neurotypical versus neurodivergent, like divergent from what? Divergent from what we think of as universal and has been this way for time immemorial, but actually if you look at history, it's actually only the last few hundred years. So there you go. I think that justifies every tangent I went off there.
Wrapped it up. Finished.
I think.
I'm joking.
All right, thanks for tuning in, everyone.
There we go. That's David explanation done.
Anyway, man.
No, I was just letting you talk. I was going to interrupt you a couple of times, but I thought, no, I'll let you finish explaining yourself, because I know what it's like when you're trying to. You've got it all in there and you're trying to get it out, and if someone keeps sort of poking or stopping that rhythm, it's hard to find yourself again. So
I feel that, I've always had it, I feel it as a desperation to make sure that the person who you're trying to help understand something has, it's like bottom-up thinking, they call it. You need all the context. So I want to be able to deliver every single detail as it pops into my head to make sure that you understand,
to be
whilst
fair,
also dealing
my
with...
girlfriend is terrible. Like sometimes she'll tell me stuff and I'm like, can you just tell me the bits I need to know, please?
Have you thought about being screened to see if you're on the autism spectrum as well?
Again, I jokingly said to my girlfriend, I think I'm autistic, and she said, I don't think you are, but...
Well, see,
I feel like I have tendencies, but it's to say I am, I don't know.
Once you experience... I've joined a few great groups on Facebook. There's one, ADHD for adults and stuff. And again, you start to get exposed to other descriptions of other people's experience.
Yeah.
And that's what starts to... My only understanding of autism before that...
It was Rain Man.
Yeah, it's Dustin Hoffman and Rain Man. Do you know what I mean? So unless you're like, licking the school bus window kind of thing. But again, it's a spectrum. And in order to get... I say that, by the way, as... I tend to describe myself as officially medically retarded.
Yeah.
But I say that as a term of affection. And now that I'm officially part of a marginalised group, because I obviously sit at the top of privilege.
Top of the bus.
You know what I mean? So I say that as a sort of, I'm going to take that word that people use to dismiss, and I'm actually going to, it has zero power
impact on me,
because I'm just going to use it how I like. So I if I offend anyone, I apologise. But
he's not sorry.
No, I am. I hate offensive people. But anyway, now that I understand that actually, because it's a spectrum, it's a cluster of symptoms, I mean, even forget the terminology and the classification. It's all about, for me, and it's been this journey most of my life, especially once I tried to get sober or successfully got sober, it's all about trying to understand, trying to do the things that I want to do on a certain, a current set of understandings about what I'm going to be able to get my brain to do. Try, it doesn't work. Okay, now I need to assume that was an assumption on the fact that my brain can do that. Now I need to work out why. So me seeking all these things is really just about me trying to get a solid, reliable instruction manual for my brain just so I can achieve these things. Unfortunately, we all have to wade through this sea of judgments and labels and skepticism from people who think that it's just a fad or it's a convenient excuse. There is nothing convenient about any of this.
No, I think that's what does a lot of people's heads in when it comes across as it's like a quirky sort of thing, or it's, it's on trend. And I think you were just describing there about going through life and having to figure things out for yourself before it became sort of recognized more mainstream and through doctors and through medical assistants. But yeah, we've had to, myself anyway, and just from what you said there, you've had to find out what works for you, and you've had to go through so much shit and so much shame and embarrassment and just guilt because you don't know how you are. And that's what I was going to say to you at the beginning when you were talking about ADHD and being told you could be good at school, you've got so much potential, but then you used to be like, well, why can't I do what these people are saying I can do? I don't know why, because you feel that you can, like you say, you feel that you're somewhat intelligent enough and that you have the attributes or the skill sets, but you can't seem to go to the next level of it, and then you have all that guilt and that shame and that just embarrassment, and then you think, well, everyone expected so much from me and I've done fuck all, and you end up living a life of you feel worthless, you feel like you're not worthy of anything.
And it's a really I don't believe it's any, well these days I think we have no excuse because we have so much access, everyone has access to information. But back then, previous generations, it's kind of no one's fault. It's just unforeseen bug in a system, otherwise designed with good intent, right? But it is a particularly cruel chain of events for a child to go through, because what happens is when you're young, your brain is basically, it's all neuroplasticity. Every new piece of information, that's what I love about being a father. So I always start to burst into tears as soon as I start talking about my kids. But anyway, I taught my daughter to ride a bike a couple of years ago. It was the most rewarding experience of my life because it was at a time where I'd started to learn about how the brain works, neuroplasticity and stuff. And I say, I'm careful with my words actually, because it's not true that I taught her to ride her bike. I think as parents, we all like to co-opt their successes. She taught herself to ride her bike. I was just there as a resource to give a bit of technical information and a bit of moral support and encouragement, when something she tried or failed or something. So she did that, not me. I just had the privilege of sort of being like a goal hanger,
watching
it. But that's a football term, right?
Yeah, I was about to say, you didn't watch football, but it's a few terminologies.
But every time she discovered something new, a new concept, trying it not working, iterating, trying a new concept, there is physical matter in her brain growing to accommodate. Like, neurons and synapses are all these spindly little branch-like connections.
Hundreds of thousands.
New branches grow literally in our earliest years to accommodate new information. And I was seeing it through the lens of that and just thinking, fuck me, that is incredible. But it is the most formative, impressionable period of our lives. And as much as people who have the privilege are lucky enough to be able to get through adversity and get to adulthood and for it to not affect them, to say you just need to not let it affect you, again, that doesn't really help, because some of us, for a whole mix of reasons, it's harder for us to do that, but it does have an impact. So for example, You get plopped out into this world. Everything's hunky-dory. Everyone's taking care of you. You know, surrounded by your carers who, if you're lucky, I was extreme privilege of having 2 parents, and, you know, not that you need 2 parents. Statistics show, actually, the difference in impact on adult outcome. I'm sorry. I just want to say this, just, you know, for anyone that, you know, came from separated parents or whatever, or no parents. Actually, the difference in positive adult outcomes in children that have 2, you know, reasonably decent, solid parents versus children that have only 1 reasonably decent, solid parents is almost identical to being statistically insignificant. Yeah, so the reason why I had to take the time to explain that is because I've accidentally potentially othered people, and I don't. There is no need for anyone who had an experience different to me to actually feel like that, because actually the data, the autistic side of me, shows that it's not true. Anyway,
but I was going to say Batman done alright with just a butler. So,
well, he didn't. He was a fucking psycho. Do you know what I mean? He was a deeply traumatized. Yeah, he's got all that money.
I would quite happily have Batman's life. You're telling me you wouldn't want to live in a Batcave with Batmobile?
This man, it didn't have any superpowers. He used his time and resources and dedicated the rest of his life, because he was so incapable of overcoming the absolute burning rage and trauma of his parents being murdered. He dedicates the rest of his life to take the law into his own hands and beat people to a pulp with his bare hand.
You've just killed Batman for me. Do you know what? Anyone who did like Batman or loved Batman or the idea of Batman, you've now just demolished it. You've killed it, squashed it.
I mean, I think you need
Batman is just a raving lunatic.
Maybe have a chat with your therapist. But, anyway, but you know, so think of it. You come out into this system because no one had any reason to believe otherwise. Because people want the best for you. You start to get an idea from the people around you about what life could look like, and you start to formulate an idea which becomes an expectation, which becomes a sort of vision board in the, you know, branches in your brain accommodating it, of things being pretty positive. You're told there's no reason why you can't do it. As soon as you get exposed to that system, you try and fail, and gradually what is also happening is a constant readjustment and downgrading in order to maintain optimism of actually I'd be happy with that outcome. And you know, I've been here for 4 years. It's a very long story, but I've gone from thinking, do you know what, it's all right, because actually I love being in Denmark anyway. I moved here for reasons. It's the best place for the kids. Shame I'm not with their mum anymore, but I think this will be okay. I'll get a job and I'll set up. And then gone to thinking, realising, fuck, it's really difficult to get a job. Okay, well, if I can hang on to this apartment, that's my walk away point. As long as I've still got a home, having given up my home in the UK and then having sort of been pushed out of my home over here and stuff, as long as I can hang on to this place and actually take care of my kids on the, you know, the sort of nearly 50-50 basis that I've had, as long as I can do that, that's great, because a job's going to be just around the corner. I'm now at a point where I'm going to have to give this place up. I'm going to have to throw away yet again pretty much all of my worldly possessions, go back to, and that some of this stuff is stuff that I've carried with me as like anchors or totems for some sort of link to something. You know, since I was at uni, my art books and stuff is from when I dropped out of uni 25 years ago. But even now I'm thinking, well, no, okay, all right, no, this could work, because actually if I can save some crucial stuff, save as much of the kids' stuff as possible, because that will go with them to their mums, and actually, as long as I can have a roof over my head and have food in my belly enough to stay alive, and that's going to be a mix of, it's mostly going to be homeless shelters, sleeping on couches, and every other weekend spending a couple of nights in the house with the kids, and then mum will go somewhere else. That's okay, because I've recently I've formulated this idea of building a life for myself and starting a business and stuff. So that has been a gradual downgrade constantly since I was young enough or old enough to think, well, actually, my dad, born in poverty, he's done really well. We've got a house that we own. You know, there's food in the fridge. So that's what my future, and actually people are saying I've got potential. So actually maybe I've got all these ideas in my head. So now I feel free to dream and put together a vision of what that looks like. From there, to where I am now in terms of, oh, actually that'll be all right as long as I can be in homeless shelters. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's the life of, I mean, really my story, and it's so true of so many others, and it's so much worse for so many others, is really just the story of unrecognised, untreated ADHD. It's not ADHD, it's unrecognised until you're 42 years old. Because also, there is this thing that a lot of people with ADHD report called RSD, rejection sensitive dysphoria. They believe that that's the result of, you know, everyone throws out a statistic, so I'll just grab for one of them, but it's still, you know, it's still the same point. Kids with neurodivergences, especially if they're unrecognised, they're told off, and therefore receiving messages that they're bad and not good enough, something like 200, not an additional 200 times, but 200 times more than your average child.
Yeah.
Which means that, again, our self-esteem, which again is a bundle of neurons and beliefs and stuff that get written into the brain. It's not to say that you can't change them, but it's almost pretty much set in stone who you are without lots and lots of work and understanding. The path that takes by the time you get to adulthood, again, has been so twisted by this unforeseen bug or, you know, side experience of the ADHD experience that, you know, people wonder why we get to middle age and we burn out. People wonder why the biggest killer of men is suicide. And I'm not to say, you know, I mean, no, I'm not someone that's like, oh, poor man, more, because it is hard for us, but fucking hell, we did create this system. It actually just shows how uniquely, unbelievably unsuited to sole governance men are. We have had the reins for hundreds, thousands of years,
and we played it against us,
and we've even built one that fucks us up. Do you know what I mean? But you know, so it's not just about this person needs medicating so that they can be their behaviour is less disruptive, therefore inconvenient to the people around them, and also just to chill them out a bit. And medication isn't even necessarily the answer. But the truth of the adult outcome, I mean, look at me. Like, I was born, I'm a straight, white, cisgender, English-speaking male. I've got 2 arms, 2 legs. I was born into a family at a time in history where my dad grew up in poverty, but was able to, you know, work hard. I'm so lucky in so many ways. And I also have a lot of gifts, creative, intelligent, all that kind of stuff, and really good at spotting opportunity. It's got to the point where it's fucking annoying now, because optimism has become a punishment. Like, I can handle the despair. It's the hope that kills me. But my creativity just keeps on giving me dopamine hits to keep me alive, and it is getting to the point where it's like, fucking hell, man, can I not just wallow in despair for a bit? But from where I started and how my life should have been to where I am now, and that's like a whole other, that's a 2-hour discussion. This is what it means. This is the adult outcome. So when I hear, like, Denmark is the same as well, there's a lot, it's a weird place here, man, because you realise that Denmark is still an amazing place. They have this incredible system that designed with good intent that needs updating, but unfortunately in many ways Denmark is not awful, but it's just as disappointing as many other places in terms of the distance between the PR that they project, everyone's included and everyone, we really lead the world in childcare and stuff, and the reality of how you hear the current, sorry, did you get any of that? I can't do it twice. Anyway, the reality of how they, and again, a lot of this is just current political climate, I think, but how they talk about kids with what they call diagnoses over here. I hear parents talk about, I heard one parent, really lovely people, like, you know, lovely people, friends, talk about their kid and saying, yeah, you know, he's showing signs and stuff. We thought about medication, but actually there's no need because his symptoms aren't really that disruptive. So what they're saying is, if he was too much, we consider giving him medication, but we'd only be giving him medication so he's a bit less annoying. But let me explain how I learned this from a guy called Dr. Russell Barkley. who is like the world's, he's developed a lot of the medications, slow release formula, Elvance that we take and stuff. Now, on the one hand, he's an American physician, so he's undoubtedly going to be a shill for the pharmaceutical companies, but he is also a world's leading expert on this kind of thing. The way to think of medication is it's a temporary intervention that allows kids, when they hit that system, to not fall behind and start that domino effect that ends up where I am and where many other adults like me are. It allows them to keep up and not fall behind. So it doesn't increase that anxiety that builds, that I explained earlier. It also allows them, at that point of crucial neuroplasticity, to be able to build habits and routines and practices to enable them to do stuff that other people can do, be more organised, tackle a homework task when you get it instead of at the last minute, all of that kind of stuff. And again, this is all neural pathways that are being, neural networks being built in the brain. And it basically allows them to keep up long enough that when a lot of people I know that I've spoken to who were diagnosed early, once they hit their 20s, they stop taking the medication. It's done what it needs to do. It has dramatically increased, not in all cases, and this is still, I'm not an expert, but as I see it from what I've learned and people that I've spoken to and with my own experience, it has, first of all, prevented what is basically a slow motion, lifelong disaster in terms of adult outcomes that results in all the stuff that baffles us all today. Why do men keep topping themselves? Why do so many people reach middle age and burn out and stuff? It's also allowed their brain to wire itself more closely to people that don't have ADHD at that time when it's forming, because you can change those things through habits and stuff, but why do it then, man? Do it right when you need it. And it's prevented all of the other stuff, the accumulated shame and stuff that also wires your, because self-esteem when we're born, and this is the privilege of the duty of parenthood, fucking hell, sorry, is that basically when you're born, think of your self-esteem as being like a weak little reed. It's weak as fuck. And it's going to grow. And over the course of life, just life in general, is going to get knocked to fuck. And if you've got the right people around you to support you, enough of the things that are going to accidentally lead to that getting knocked to fuck eliminated as possible. Your aim is, by the time kids reach adulthood, their self-esteem, so is that your way of...
No, I was relaxing my arm.
Okay, sorry. Their self-esteem is as close to as solid as a fucking oak tree as possible. That's the debt that we owe to our kids. It's the minimum expectations. It's the fucking least we can do. And even from the autistic side of me, that's just the biological imperative. All life forms are here to continue the species. As soon as you become a parent, you have basically created two human beings and thrown them into this system against their will, into a system they had no input into, and we're born into the circumstances not of our making.
And you tell them to get on with it.
We have to survive through that until we're old enough to be able to try and create circumstances that we can control without completely fucking destroying us by the time we get there, in all those ways that the neural networks to build to help us get, the healthy habits, reduce the need to develop unhealthy habits like lying and masking and putting stuff off. Again, these are all the physical matter in the brain that wires to accommodate that. The self-esteem thing, all of that kind of shit. So that's the only reason I have had to boil everything in my life down to, I'm not going to be able to achieve everything because I have limitations.
But everyone has limitations.
Well, exactly. But recognising that it alleviates you of the burden of the sort of perfection that we all feel that we need to.
Perfectionism is probably another one for ADHD, isn't it?
Yeah, that's the other thing, because you become so afraid of the pain of failure that RSD is,
or
so
not being enough. That it needs to be perfect.
It has to be perfect, because what you're trying to do is marry up the vision of what it could be in your brain, which we're really good when we have an idea of seeing the finished thing.
I'll just take you there, because I was doing a thumbnail the other day for a YouTube video, and
A what?
a thumbnail. So you know the pictures you see on YouTube. As like,
I see. Yeah, I know what it is. I was
yeah.
just trying to work
Yeah,
out.
thumbnail. They're called. So
Okay,
I was trying to create a thumbnail, and
I
had this idea
thumbnail.
of a specific orange in my head.
Yeah.
And I couldn't find it, or I
Yeah.
couldn't match it, and I was there for about 3 hours trying to find this orange. And then in the end, I was like, Cameron, you just need to post it. It doesn't matter. No one's gonna care.
It's the hardest lesson that I've had
Yeah.
to learn. Absolutely, I feel you, and it's the hardest lesson I've had to learn. Made easier by getting a better understanding of myself and limitations and stuff. But yeah, I think a lot of that comes from this RSD, which is you've been stung so many times by having a vision of what you can achieve, and that represents not just an outcome or a life or something that you are working towards for yourself, but also the feedback that you get, positive or negative, and how much in each direction from external judgment. That any variance, or the greater the variance between the idea in your head and what you're able to achieve, is so crippling that we end up getting completely stuck in that hyper focus in a really unhealthy way, to the point where we basically fuck up the delivery of the rest of the project. And if you're like me, I realise now, I was probably 14 or 15 by the time something in me gave up subconsciously, and this took over as my default freeze response. It means that you end up not achieving anything. So again, you end up, they say people with ADHD, their life, I think of my life history as a graveyard littered with the tombstones of ideas that now represent failures.
Yeah, no,
so you get
relate.
there are so many knock-on effects to this kind of stuff.
Yeah, you think you can do a business every other day, or you can create this, do this, make money this way.
Do you know what's annoying though? I'm sure it's the same with everyone. Every single idea you've ever had, they would have worked. They would have worked if you'd been able to have the resources and the insight that you have in
Well,
yourself.
the thing is, I'm not. I've got all my phones have lists of ideas in them, but I remember.
Have you got screenshot of stuff that you think that's great? I'm gonna read that later.
I was genuinely, I came up with the idea years ago, and I remember telling my dad about it, and the concept of it was, I said, imagine if you can just go into a shop, and I said, I don't know how we'd do it exactly yet, but imagine you just go into a shop and you can take something off the shelf, and it's like weighted or something, so then people know what's gone, so they can just restock it straight away, or you don't have to go around and have a look at the shop. You know what's coming off the shelves all the time. I said, and then through that though, you can then pay through the weight that you've gathered on there, and they know what and you can leave, and you don't really have to wait around and pay. You can just walk out. And my dad would look at me like I was nuts. And then genuinely, it's a true story, and about 6 or 7 years later, I seen this Amazon shop open where you literally just pick stuff up and walk out. And I was like, I thought about that about 6 years ago, 7 years ago.
I guarantee,
but I didn't know how to do it.
Ideas like that, every single disruptive, successful innovation, I reckon, is from someone that's somewhere on the spectrum for autism and/or somewhere.
It's
on the
just
spectrum for
there must be an easier way to do this. That's how my mind works.
I think for me, the autistic side of me, if there is an autistic side, and this is a recent realization, I'm still going through the assessment, because if it isn't the case, fine, no problem. I'll move on and see what else matches that.
Yeah.
But it would make a lot of sense. Autistic side of me cannot stand inefficiency and things that don't make sense, waste. The ADHD side of me has this almost Labrador puppy excitement and optimism, but in a system which, I mean, yes, it's that's an obvious improvement on the status quo, but other people, I mean, let's say neurotypicals for the sake of argument, I don't believe it's as simple as that, but other people would quite happily carry on in the status quo, because one of the most annoying things I've come across in almost every business I've worked in or gone in to sort of add to is that, well, it's just how we've always done it mentality.
That fucking annoys me.
That's not an answer.
I'm sorry, Dad, but I'm going to call you out a little bit here. Whenever I used to ask my dad when I was a kid, well, why is that, or why don't I do this, or because that's just how it is. It's but I know that's how, but it doesn't make sense. Yeah. Why are you doing it? It doesn't make sense.
Talk to your doctor. Have a look at autism, because the reason why I say that, and again, people, the problem is we've been conditioned to think of these words, especially autism, as an insult. It's not. It's just a name that describes a cluster of symptoms that are prevalent enough to qualify for, okay, we'll put it in that bucket because that gives us physicians a starting point on knowing how to treat it. That's all it is, right? But
my therapist, my therapist, I asked him, and then he said I didn't because I had empathy.
Ah, man, right. Okay, I'm going to get into the empathy thing with autistic. That's fine. That's no problem. One thing I've discovered about psychiatrists, and a psychiatrist, for example, is just a GP for the brain. They can't know everything. They probably not going to have lived experience of everything. They learn stuff in a book. They refer to the DSM. Right, this sounds like that, so this is the first line medication. Well, that's all they know, right? You need to work with them, but I don't believe you can rely on them. The same with therapists. I've had a few therapists in my time. There's only one that I thought he had all the lived experience, all the wisdom, similar background to me. And he'd come out through rehab. He'd lived so many different lives, and he just understood. But the problem is, as soon as you come up a therapy, because a lot of therapists, sometimes they're people that just think, and this is not a criticism at all, it's just a descriptor of the path that some people take to get into therapy. They go through a period of burnout or extreme stress or depression, and it just completely causes them to reassess their life. They go through it, they see a therapist, it really helps them, and they think, wow, maybe this is I want to help other people. But the problem is, they only know what they know. So the reason why I say that was
Socrates.
Exactly. That's why it's the wisest thing to say to start, is because it causes so much. So for example, if you took your therapist at his word, and it's only recent that people have realised that is not the case. If you took him at his word, that's actually a fundamental difference between you being assessed and discovering new and helpful about yourself to continue you on a path, or actually putting you on a dead end. Right? The reason why people think people with autism are lower in empathy comes down mostly to eye contact, right? So if a non-autistic person is talking to someone with autism and that person isn't making eye contact, or they're doing other stuff at the same time, it looks rude, judged on what we think, let's pretend I'm a neurotypical person, on what we think is normal and acceptable. And because we have a limited frame of reference, which is our own experience, it is not unreasonably interpreted as that person doesn't care about what I'm saying, and they don't care that I can see that. They must be low on empathy. They're not empathetic to my reasons. We then neurotypicals also, because they tend to think that there's a normal and then the deviations from it, then say, oh, bless him, he's autistic. It's a bit, that's why. That's bullshit. Ironically, what it comes down to, it's called the double empathy problem that they've discovered. People with autism, when it comes to interactions with and relationships with other people with autism or similar experiences, are just as empathetic, at the least, as anyone else that has empathy, right? What it actually comes down to is, and again, we've only recently discovered this, that a big difference in the autistic brain to other brains is that there are, again, I forget the number, but it illustrates the point, let's say hundreds of times more neurons in the autistic brain. That means the autistic brain is a supercomputer. Everything that we're going through experiencing in life, especially if you've got ADHD and you already got to the point where your brain is somehow kept up and adapted to processing so much information at the same time. If your brain has hundreds of times more neurons, you are experiencing life so much more intensely, because you are experiencing everything, sounds, tastes, feelings, whatever, in like ultra 4K high definition.
It's mad. Keep going.
So when so when an autistic person is trying to listen to you, first of all, they are unable to, sometimes if it looks like they're doing other stuff, it's because, they're difficult to narrow attention, but they're managing it because we are capable of listening to what you're saying and doing three other things at a time. The reason why they don't make eye contact, and it's so obvious this, that it just it makes you realise how offensive, innocent enough, but how offensive and dumb that conception is, that autistic people have no empathy. they are trying to listen. They're doing their best to attend to what you're telling them because they want to hear what you're saying. They're trying to cut down on unnecessary data to process. If you're listening to what someone's telling you, you don't need to see it. So the reason why they're not making eye contact is they're eliminating a huge portion of that bandwidth that's being used by eliminating visual data. So it's actually the neurotypical person that's getting offended by it that is not being able to empathize with that person's experience. That they then turn around and say that you're not empathetic. And again, that just comes down to empathy is about being able to link and understand your experiences with someone else's to put yourself in their shoes, right?
It's just a societal thing as well. Manners, eye contact, or looking at someone they're talking is just considered being polite.
It's so difficult for two people that have their differences diverge this much to understand each other. That's all it comes down to. It's just a misunderstanding. But it becomes this misconception that through a bit of ego and hurt feelings and not realizing that we owe, that all I know is that I know nothing, turns into a widely believed diagnostic criteria, which is going to prevent, coming from a psychotherapist that you go to as an authority, and again, not a critique of your therapist at all, that's a fork in the path of an adult outcome, and that's fucking catastrophic on a long enough timeline.
Well, maybe I should look into it a bit more, because there are things I've seen in the past and I see now in my day-to-day, and for example, when I talk to people, I find it very hard to look in their eyes. Like, I can listen and look, but when I start talking, I need to sort of deviate, because when I'm looking into their eyes, I feel that I can't then think about what it is I'm trying to say, because I'm too busy thinking about why are they looking at me, or am I speaking, okay, how do I look, and then my attention gets distracted. But it's more so it's the unnecessary information in a story or something that I can't handle, and it's something I've had to really learn to manage, especially with my girlfriend. I love her to bits, but she'll be talking to me and I'm just like, what is it you're trying? Can you just tell me what you want to tell me? Because I don't need to know about.
Do you follow ADHD Love? There's an influencer couple called Rich and Rocks Pink, right?
Does she have like crazy colour hair sometimes?
She's got ADHD, and they've recently discovered that he's just been diagnosed as autistic.
Right. Okay.
But they now do these sort of pieces of content, which is like what it's like for someone with ADHD. So me, ADHD, I want to tell you absolutely everything about all this, all over that. Me with autism, I want to understand what you're saying, but you are making it as impossible for me as possible. I
start getting angry. I'm like, can you just get to it, please? Like, I could be doing other things. I've spent about 20 minutes listening to nothing right now.
Yeah.
Like, what is it?
But what's ironic about it is that, again, it just comes down to everyone needs to, I think, practice that, rather than assume that you're bad or doing something wrong and it's hurting me. I'm just going to assume that I'm sure that 99% of bad human interactions.
You don't mean to do this, but you are.
It's a misunderstanding, and the problem with that, the reason why that misunderstanding doesn't get resolved is both parties think that they're right.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, and that's what we've come to learn as a couple as well. I mean, she's got ADD, I've got ADHD.
Oh, she has.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting.
We're quite a pair, especially when we have a conversation, because I like to jump in, she likes to jump in, and then we both sometimes get a little bit hurt if the other person has interrupted us, because now we forget what we're going to say. But when it comes to explaining stories, we're very different, or points of view, because she likes to tell me everything everything besides what the point is, whereas I just speak as little as possible to get to the point. So we vary when we have conversations. Sometimes she just talk about, and so I did this, and then I bumped into this person, and she was asking me about my shoes today, and she was like, I love your shoes, and I'm like, what has this got to do with the question I asked? I don't need to know these things. You just tell me the answer. Like, how much was it? Oh, well, when I got in there, I don't know, can you just, how much was it?
This interview must be fucking difficult for you then, because this is basically...
It was like yesterday when you sent me a voice note, and it was about 5.5, 6 minutes long, and I listened to it, and I got to the end, and I was like, the dick said just a whole load of nothing. Yeah, like, he didn't even answer my question
all the time. I know, and I'm sorry.
I got a voice note from my girlfriend this morning or yesterday. No, it was this morning. I can't. Was it today? This morning or yesterday? But even at the end, she even noticed herself. She went, I don't think I've actually answered your question. And I was like, no, you haven't. You spent 3 minutes talking to me. You didn't even answer the question.
But I've just, voice notes were a revelation to me because I've realised in my mind
to you, a fucking.
Well, I know, and I'm
else.
learning this lesson and starting to adapt, but because my thinking is, I need to make sure that I get all the most important information across. If I have to I hate typing with my fingers.
Yeah.
My eyesight is getting worse because I'm getting really old. As I mentioned, I'm quite old. I know I don't look it. Spelling mistakes, fucking annoying.
Yeah.
Because that's that intolerance of frustration. You're trying to do something, so that's annoying. So I'm thinking, there is a higher chance of me actually sending this message, and it's going to be more clearer and concise if I do a voice note. I'm only now learning over the last few weeks, and this voice note thing for me is only really the last few months, that actually that's not the solution, because all that happens is I just talk.
Yeah,
forever.
I mean, what would be easier for me? I mean, I suppose I probably, for a lot of other people, would. If you
is this an intervention on behalf of you and everyone else
Maybe,
on my voice notes? Right,
so
okay.
I think what would be more manageable, digestible, would be if you just broke the voice, even at 7 minutes, just break it down into like 7 1-minute voice notes, so it doesn't look so intimidating.
Can't you just listen to it? I don't even know how to do that. Great solution.
Just stop talking and then press record again.
Oh yeah.
I mean, to be honest,
that's annoying. I was going to say, why don't you just listen to it a minute at a time?
Well,
but fuck, no, you're right. It's on me.
Because
God
when you press pause, you then have to find it again, because I think it goes back. But also yesterday I was listening to your voice notes on like 2x speed, so I was like, I can't spend 7 minutes listening to this. Like,
that's a good idea.
Yeah,
that's a really good idea.
But then the only problem with that is it goes too fast that I can't type whilst I'm listening to it, so I don't have to try and.
But if I was texting though, if I was putting the same amount of information in a text, because I feel your
pain.
Well, sort of, except I would much rather someone sends me one long essay that I can read in one go than sending me a sentence at a time, because I'm I need to know that, again,
I'm terrible. I send it in bunches.
This is an autistic trait, I think. Apparently it's bottom up processing. The reason why, like when you were saying about your dad, about how but why that gets misinterpreted, I think, as sort of reluctance or belligerent, or I'm trying to think of reasons why I don't have to do this. It's not. It's because some people are bottom up processors, which means that, hey, look, I understand you need me to do this, I'm going to do it, that's a given, but in order for me to do it, I need all the information as possible, and it needs to make sense to me. So that's why I need to understand, that's why I keep asking questions. But it's probably also why your girlfriend, that's an act of love and connection. She wants you, out of everyone else in her life, to understand her experience, so that your partner's in it, so you're in it together. But you asking those questions is not about saying, I don't want to hear this because your feelings aren't important to me. It's about, I absolutely want to hear this, but in order for me to really, deliver this and be a partner with you, this is how I need the information. This is the kind of information I need, and this is how I need it.
Yeah, and that's what I find very hard about, because sometimes I do, and it's like I don't want her to feel that I don't care, because I do care, but I just haven't got the capacity within my mind or within myself to sit there and listen to it.
Yeah.
Because I switch off, or I get bored, or I want to jump in, or I want to maybe make a joke somewhere, and just so I can sort of stimulate myself in the conversation, because if I just listen to you for too long, I start zoning out or getting bored, or but
again, that's why it's an act of love. Even you would have recognized it, even if you didn't know it was ADHD. That the longer you have to pay attention to her, the lower the chance that you're going to be able to meet her need, which is to understand her. So that's why you're doing that. But of course, it could get misunderstood by the person that is basically expressing a need and being vulnerable, that they're being rejected, as you saying, I haven't got time for this, just fucking tell me the broad strokes. Whereas it's like the eye contact thing. You've got two people with good intent that want to be able to understand each other, get to know each other, meet each other's needs if a need is being expressed, but they both have different ways of being able to effectively achieve that for the other person. Completely misunderstood, because where we are in society at the moment, no one is thinking, all I know is that I know nothing, or we don't know what.
And we joke
know.
about it as well, because She does. She looks at my face. She's like, "Oh, sorry, have I tired you out?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah." Listening to you has really fucking tired me out. Honestly, I'm fucked.
I hope that, and I'm sure it is. But I mean, you guys have been through a lot. It sounds like, and you have enough of a bond, and the baseline, unshakable, concrete. One commandment in this relationship is we're in it together, even if we piss each other off at times. So that's good. That'll carry you through.
Yeah, no, that's something we are sort of together in. We understand that we piss each other off, although we're not perfect, but we still, care enough for each other to want to do life together. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, there's times where I'm like, she does my head in. There's times when she's like, you do my head in, and it's just. I reckon it's life, isn't it?
You should both follow that ADHD love couple.
Yeah.
Because what I love about them, can we tag them in this? Because I tell you what.
Yeah, I can do that if you want.
There are people that I really want to talk to, influencers, even if I can just like throw questions at them on the phone for 30 minutes.
Well,
so let's tag them and call them out. But because
why don't we get them on?
What I love about them is they have that. They seem to have, and we only see one side of it, but they seem to have that ideal balance, which is all you really need.
Understanding.
Yeah, they take it with humour. Their first position, first principle, sort of starting place. Is we love each other, so everything else is in service of that.
Yeah. Let's figure it out.
It's so wonderful. It just makes me, I just want that for myself. And they're funny as well.
Yeah, they do. They are funny. Do some good stuff.
So follow them, tag them in this.
No, follow me.
And sorry,
fucking hell, I've got them on my show.
Sorry.
I've got them on my show and promoting other people.
But okay, how about this? We tag Roxy and Rich Pink in this.
Is their second name actually Pink?
And we tell. I'm assuming. I don't know. I haven't spoken to them. That's like
second
on the list.
Question number one. Second name Pink.
But how about this? We think they're really good, and your followers should check them out because we're working on the assumption they're decent people, unless they ignore being atted, in which case they're massive.
Yes.
Yeah.
Insert word.
Challenge accepted. We've laid down the gauntlet. I don't mean that. I just really want to meet you guys. So
he's a super fan.
Yeah.
Bless him.
I am.
Yeah.
And you just vibe off.
Yeah. No, it's great when you find content that's relatable to you, and they were probably the first major content creators on ADHD and stuff that I started to sort of see more and more of.
Yeah. Do you think that's part of what helped you recognise that? I thought I knew what ADHD was, but actually, I can see.
Yeah, I find social media is a very hard place for it, especially maybe more so TikTok, because a lot of people think diagnose themselves through TikTok or through social media, and they say, I've got autism or I've got ADHD because I've seen such and such on YouTube or I've seen such and such on here, on there. So that's why I found it very hard when I went to the program for the recovery addiction and then got the assessment for ADHD, and I was getting confused because they said you got ADHD, and I was like, yeah, but I don't know because I've seen this person and they said ADHD is like this and I'm not like that, so I don't think I do. And they're like, yeah, and then they're trying to explain to me about there's different sort of spectrums of it, or different ADHD types, and there's ADD and ADHD, and
well, even that is.
But I'm just thinking, I'm not, because you see some people and they're like, and I guess on social media as well, you exaggerate the point to make the point, but. When they're saying hyperactive and they're like talking and they're like this and their foot's going, they're like, yeah, and then they pretend they forget what they were saying, and I'm like, I'm not that forgetful, I'm not that hyperactive, like I'm quite mellow most of the time. Like I do have moments where I can be hyperactive, and I do, like my girlfriend calls it, like a dog gets the zoomies. I have like an hour where I just I'm crazy, and then I just fall asleep because I'm burnt out.
Like a toddler.
Yeah, and my mum used to say it all the time. Like, I used to come home from school.
Yeah. So I just realised everyone's looking at my balls here. Sorry.
I used to come home from school and I'd just wind her up, or I'd just be mad for about an hour or something, and then my nan used to be there sometimes, or whoever, and my nan would be like, oh, how do you live with him? My mum was like, he'll be fine. Give him 20 minutes, half an hour maybe, he'll burn himself out and he'll be asleep on the couch. And sure enough, going from school, have a mad run around, and all of a sudden I'm fucking out on the couch, I'm gone. And that's just but to stimulate. I get it when I get tired. The more tired I get, the more I start to get a bit more hyper, because it's as if I'm trying, like a kid, when they get tired they try and keep themselves awake by stimulating themselves. That's what I'm like. And my girlfriend always says to me, why is it when I go to sleep or I want to go to bed, you just come alive? I'm like, because I don't want to go to bed yet, so I'm trying to keep myself awake.
Have you heard that? What do they call it? Revenge bedtime procrastination.
Oh, I'm terrible, mate. I could be so tired. I could be like 9 o'clock at night and I'm done, like tired. And I know I could go to sleep, but I'm like, it's too early. I'm not going to sleep at 9.
Do you think so? Now that I'm looking, basically having to revisit and revise my understanding of my entire life, right?
That's what it is.
Well, I mean, it's, I'd rather find out now than on my deathbed or not at all. But it is a thing. But I remember school now, where as soon as we got to secondary school, I was a bit odd in primary school, but it was basically a glorified creche, right? Get to secondary school, and it was a state school, but it was a all boys Catholic school in what used to be a sort of Victorian private school. So it was almost like Gothic and Harry Potterish and stuff. And I remember it as it was suddenly being thrown into Gen Pop in the worst Supermax prison in the world. So in between the social rejection, the bullying, and I don't just mean being othered a bit. I mean, on a daily basis, I was so preoccupied with survival, not having my stuff stolen, not being beaten up. A kid pissed on me once after some other kids. Yeah. I can laugh about it now. But anyway, so there was that. Then there was the falling behind at school and all of that kind of thing. From the age, I mean, I think probably from when I was about 12 or something. I'd only been there a year. I had chronic insomnia. I could not get to sleep. I'd be awake all night until the sun rose up. So much so that every morning my mum would force me to get out of bed, and I would always say, can I have a bath instead of a shower? And because I knew that means she would go away and run the bath and I'd get another few minutes. And then I would go into the bathroom, I'd get in the bath, have a quick wash, and then I'd come out of the bath and I'd curl up on all fours on the floor and put the towel over me and sleep on the bath floor in the time that, because you think, right, well, if I've got a bath now, you're probably expecting 10 minutes. If I can be in and out in 2, I've got 8 minutes to sleep. So I wonder if a lot of that is I just built this habit of being anxious about tomorrow based on the experience of today or yesterday, so much so that you're putting it off. You're putting off, as soon as you go to sleep, you wake up and it's tomorrow. You're putting off tomorrow coming, except you're not.
I had that, but in a different sense of, and it still probably follows me to like this day. But mine was never like fear of the next day or the bullying or anything like that. Mine was more the same sense of like, I know when I go to bed tomorrow begins and I don't want tomorrow to begin yet. It was more so, this is the only time of the day that I know nobody's going to want anything from me. I'm going to need no responsibility. Nobody expects me to be anywhere. No one expects me to perform, or I can just be by myself, with myself, with no expectation for nothing. And that's what I used to enjoy. That's why I was like, I don't want to go to bed yet, because as soon as I wake up, I've got to get up and I've got to be fucking awake and I've got to get ready for school and I've got to get to school and do the classes or got to go to work, and it's just so much expectation, whereas right now there's nothing. It's just me.
And there's nothing but
solitude.
I think people talk about how they have these self-sabotaging habits which we know are making things worse, but you're not doing anything. You're surviving. It's like self-medicating. I realise now that nearly 9 years sober. Even more so than that, I think that was alcohol. I think I managed to pack up the drugs a couple of years before. But all I really achieved, which is what I needed to at the time, I had a kid on the way, accidentally knocked up a girl that I barely knew but loved dearly, and thought, right, okay, we're doing this. So now managed to sort of get enough understanding and knowledge to be able to make sure that the last time I tried to stop was the last time that I had to try to stop. But when it comes to things like cocaine and that, I had never really got to the bottom of the why, because I didn't need to. So when I got diagnosed with ADHD, and for the first time in many, many years, took a dopaminergic substance, that a familiar feeling came back, which I was like, first of all, I remember when it first came on, I was like, oh, for fuck's sake, are you serious? Is this all it is? Because I was thinking it would be like Limitless. I wasn't looking for... I was just looking for my thoughts to be clearer. That's it.
I'm going to take on the world now. That's it. Everything's going to be better.
But Anyway, so it basically had to cause me to learn everything about dopamine, and therefore use that to look back on the experience of cocaine and all that kind of stuff. But I realise now that all of that stuff, despite the judgment and the disappointment and pain and judgment of the people around you that are frustrated watching you do this and all this kind of stuff, I did absolutely the right thing under those exact circumstances. And I've realised now for the first time in my life, because all the behaviours that come around that, being shady, deceitful, that kind of thing, always felt what in psychology they call ego dystonic, which basically means it feels like it doesn't quite jive with your sense of either who you are or the person you want to be. Ego syntonic being the opposite. But of course the messaging is, you're a liar, you just want it, and you care about your short-term pleasure over our feelings and all that kind of stuff. One thing about being diagnosed with ADHD, and I'm still processing this even though it's a couple of years ago, is I'm like, I fucking knew it. I fucking knew I was a good person. And it all makes perfect sense to me now. I was trying my best. I wasn't lying when I desperately wanted it. One of my earliest visions for what my life would be like, because I love knowledge, was academia. I wanted to go to Cambridge. I wanted to do a PhD and stuff. And I'm not lazy, because there are areas in my life where, for example, for 25 years, although not for the last couple of years, for various reasons, but I have built an unshakable discipline around regular exercise, but in a way that is progressive, and you have to plan and stuff that get with the nutrition around it and the discipline. Now, someone might say, yeah, but you do that because you like it. You don't want to find a touchdown because you don't like it. No one likes working out in the gym. They like leaving the gym once they've done it. But if you are doing it, if you have a goal and you're constantly pushing through barriers, it's pretty unpleasant. It's very difficult to persuade yourself to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and stuff. So I knew it. I knew that actually this is who I am, which is one of the reasons why it's actually a relief, because it means that I can practice the same level of compassion and attempt to understand and self-forgiveness. All I know is that I know nothing. That I have always seemed to apply to everyone in my life, even the kid that pissed on me at school. Like, honestly, I swear to God, I can finally apply it to myself. And it means that, because I think that, things like autism, forget the label or anything. Really what you're doing is trying to get a deeper understanding of how you work, so you can get the best out of it and stop being confounded and confused and upset by the stuff that isn't working. So for me, that's all it is. But I realise now, if I do have both, it can be very difficult, because you've got two sets of character traits which are completely diametrically opposed. The autistic side of me thrives, and I realise now, self-medicates and self-regulates through predictable routine, which is why diet and the exercise and all that kind of stuff that I realise now that was about survival. Settling into a life that I'd never had since before I left home, basically. Which was having a home, same place for 6 years in London, and waking up in the same house as your loved ones, going to sleep in the same house as your loved ones, and being able to regulate with that predictability, which is why everything's happened over the last 4 years. Is like, it's just blown my internal compass all over the place. I don't know what the fuck is going on, but I'm getting there, because I'm learning about these things. But now that I can see it, there are amazing things about both of those sides of me that I realise for the first time in my life. There's loads of stuff I can't do, but actually that doesn't matter. I can do stuff that no one else I've ever met can do. And
like making hundreds of lamps.
I made that lamp.
We should give a shout out to your lamps.
That's going to be
before we have to leave. I thought we'd get the lamps.
I'm late for picking up my key. But yeah, that's another. That'll be.
I've also. Do you know what? Before I said I don't forget much. I fucking just realised I forgot to charge my phone. So I don't know if it's. To be honest, I don't know if it's still recording. I have no idea if it's still recording. I'm hoping
that's why we got the audio. Yeah, we can just come up with a thumbnail as long as the orange is is perfect.
Yeah.
But the first episode of The Wreck, which is going to be my thing if I ever fucking get round to it.
You will get to it.
I'm going to explain all the lamps and all the stuff that
Yeah.
I mean about how the things that I've discovered that I can do. What's great for me about that is that my kid, first of all, it's statistically inevitable they're going to end up with one. They show signs of it. It's too early to really do anything about. When it comes to that, I have to decide, what's the best course. But what's great about it is, even though I've got 40-something years of negative messaging to untangle, I have learned that actually, now that I know that there's stuff that I'm going to struggle with, and I can either work around them or be at peace. What's the serenity prayer? Accept the things that I cannot change. To not keep on getting stuck in that fucking doom loop of wasting energy on that. And actually, there are things that I can really do, not just in a way that's different to anyone else, but in a way that is passionate and actually, if you're going to turn something into a work for life, people say do what you love.
Exactly,
I've got the chance of doing that. And it also means that my self-esteem, basically, I'm really grateful for everything that's happened to me, because my kids now, who are the most wonderful people I've ever met, I know everyone says about their kids, but just as human beings, they're my favourite people in the world. They're very different in different ways, but they fascinate me and they just impress me all the time. It means that now there is an opportunity, if they have just one person around them, because school will fumble them, medical community will fumble them, society will fumble them. If they got one person in their life who's here to say, hey, I've been to the future and I'm coming back to tell you what I've learned.
That's
First
kind of
of
what it
all,
is. So you do have a time machine. You're a walking time machine.
my son thinks I can make anything. He asked me to build a time machine so that we can go back in time to when I was his age, so that we could be best friends.
But isn't it beautiful though that, like, because I do think that as well, knowing that I now have more of an understanding of myself and how I'm wired and etc. And I do see a lot of people like my parents and that, since my diagnosis, they seem to have a bit more patience or understanding or empathy with me. Before they realised now that I wasn't just maybe a shitbag at home, and I wasn't trying to be how I was being. But with me and Lily both having the diagnosis, I suppose, Lily, my girlfriend, we can now.
Hi, Lily. Does she actually watch this?
Sometimes when I bug her enough.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I said.
Right.
Even my person who loves me the most in the world can't even bother to watch 10 minutes of my YouTubes. But
Yeah, that hurts.
yeah, it
That
does hurt.
hurts, Lily.
You see,
The effort he puts into understanding what you're telling him about your day. No, I'm kidding.
that I love.
Kidding.
What was I saying?
I have no idea.
No, let me get
No,
it
no
out.
idea.
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful that as we have an understanding more of ourselves through our diagnosis or through wanting to understand our makeup, that we can then have that sort of patience, empathy and understanding with our kids, and we can hopefully avoid the mistakes our parents made of us by having an understanding of how maybe they're themselves are wired, if that makes any sense to you.
Yeah.
So like, if I have a kid and I can see that there's certain things that I see maybe in myself or whatever, instead of going to maybe what my parents did and it was frustration and anger and, well, why can't you just do this, and why I can then start to talk to them like a person, like an adult, because I think sometimes we think kids are stupid, and they're not stupid. You know what I mean?
Well, and also you get to that point where your relationship with your adults is one of all adults.
Yeah.
But we do slip back into those old misunderstandings that result in them treating you like a teenager and you slipping into teenager mode. So I'm really glad that you can do that, man. I mean, my parents are in the UK, so I don't I used to speak to them, have a close relationship with them all the time. I mean, in fact, I only really successfully for the final time managed to fly the nest at like 35 when I moved in with my ex, right? But we don't get to talk very much, and also that they are of a generation, I think, where they're still a bit, we didn't have mental health in our day kind of thing. And again, it's not a criticism, it's we're products of our times. And the world moves on so quickly, but there hasn't really, beyond me telling them, there hasn't really been any discussion around, my mum has listened to me fucking bollock on about, what I've learned about this and this explains that and stuff, bless her. But we haven't really had that same sort of reaching of understanding, maybe just because it's not really, maybe it isn't necessary for anyone, I don't know. But I'm happy for you and anyone else that has that have been able to, because like we said earlier, what you're basically doing is revisiting and having to reassess the story of your entire life.
Yeah.
And most of that is, with your parents and stuff like that. So to be able to do that with your life witnesses from that period is, I'm assuming, is quite therapeutic.
Yeah, it's helped make much sense of my childhood, and even just allows me to make peace with a lot of things maybe that I was hanging on to for a long time. Probably what led me to, substance abuse or escapism, or whatever you want to call it, along with the dopamine.
Do you want a line of coke, by the way?
No, I've had enough before. It just had enough to get me through this episode.
Have you, by the way, got... Sorry, man. Sorry.
I don't do coke, but I am also sober.
Yeah, so am I. But did you ever get to a point where actually you
What's
could...
the time, David?
Oh, it's 3:00.
Right.
Do we need to... Because you need to...
Yeah, but one more. Go.
There's no such thing as one more.
No.
Honestly, if we don't cut it...
I want to hear it.
Okay. I got to the stage pretty early on.
Just blame you when Lily shouts at me when I'm late.
Yeah, sorry, Lily. Where not that I do it a lot. I don't spend a lot of time in the pub anymore. I used to live in the pub and stuff. But actually be around mates. I've got no problem being around drinkers. I'm really I think drink's a wonderful thing. I've just had to accept, like a diabetic with cake. I just
can't eat it.
I just can't do it. But I'm
the same. A lot of people say to me, "Oh, is it all right if I have a drink?" I'm like, absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't mind if you have a drink. I just can't drink.
Yeah,
that's it.
It's kind of them. But I always get a bit upset, even if I reassure them that I don't want people to prevent the enjoyment of a lot of the wonderful stuff about drinking that you can get just because of me.
Sometimes I live vicariously through people. Like, I want them to get drunk for me.
So my best mate Caroline lives around the corner, right? Similar age, and she lived a life, and she's incredibly successful, sought after in what she does, self-sufficient, single mum, cancer survivor. But she came up through. She's basically in production management, doesn't cover it, but she does. She's sought after by big brands to do incredible stuff around the world, right? But she came up through it in the sort of Burning Man festival building stages. So she, she's lived a life. But if she has friends over from the States, because she's Danish American, and they go on a night out, she's on a night out, the next day I want to hear all about it. And I'm like, oh, you feeling rough? But I realise now that always ends in a bit of, I think she feels a bit judged, and it doesn't end well. And I think it's because she must think, I don't want anyone to think that I'm like, I'm amazing now, I'm enlightened because I don't drink or anything, and I'm saying this just to make you feel even worse. Again, it's just that misunderstanding. I can understand why, especially when you're hanging out your arse.
Yeah, you want to hear it because I remember that life. I want to revisit it.
I loved it because I get so much joy out of it. Anyway, so there is one last thing that I want to say. And again, it's another tag because there's someone that I really want to talk to.
Yeah.
I discovered just towards the end of last year an influencer. Her name is Hannah. Fuck, I can't remember her last name. Can we post it in the comments?
Hannah. Fuck, I can't remember. Yeah.
No, that's not her. That's not her full name. Anyway, she is. I think she's 30. I think the reason why I find it so refreshing is because she's from a more similar background to me in England than other people that I've spoken to, in a very specific, hovering but upper middle class, not quite posh public school boy, minor royal adjacent, but also more, because I know I don't sound it now, I grew up in Croydon, but my parents are quite well spoken, and I've just sort of lived in both worlds and stuff, and it depends who I'm talking to, how relaxed I am. But anyway, she's, I think, 30. She's now just over 1 year sober, which is fucking incredible. Congratulations. And her experience sounds a lot closer to mine, in that you end up on coke and basically isolating, and just you end up with that curtain twitching. It's horrible.
Kind of twitchy,
She sought help, got sober, is still sober, and has been diagnosed with ADHD. And she's started this channel. I don't know what the you'd call these things. A YouTube channel, Instagram account, whatever. Talking about it and helping others and all that kind of stuff. And she's working on an idea that she's launched, which is aimed at helping provide a fast track for other people in the UK. Because the waiting list in some areas, it was to even get an assessment. It's like 8 years.
It's crazy.
I had to wait something like 30 weeks from doctor's referral to getting and people in Denmark are like, oh, it's so long, it's unacceptable.
I got mine in I got figured mine in about 8 weeks.
Really?
From
Is that because you went through
that program? Yeah. I went in. Yeah, I started my full like therapy and assessment and stuff mid-November, and then I had my diagnosis and everything by about February time. So it took me 3.5 months or so.
But I can understand
10 weeks maybe.
Why
12
Danes
weeks.
think, wow, that is way too long. But it's 8
When
years
you
in
hear people
the
say
UK.
wait 8 years, it's crazy.
I mean, that's it. It's too late. It's game over. The damage is the amount of damage that can be done from not having an answer.
Or even it's horrible to even speak about, but that's enough time for someone to check out. Do you know what I mean? Especially how,
because all that's happening is a continuation of the working on an unreliable assumption, and so therefore putting the effort in and still failing like a failure, and people around you to so all it's doing is basically, like I said earlier, all about adult outcomes. There are forks in the road. The problem is, if you make one based on an incorrect assumption, the longer that you travel on that road, the harder it is to get back. And so anyway, she's launched this thing. But the reason why I really, really want to talk to her,
what was the point?
Because people should follow her. We will post
Hannah.
I want to say Hannah Fry, but that's the science. No, anyway,
that's Stephen Fry.
But I also really, really want to have a conversation with you, Hannah, because we're very similar in lots of ways, I think. But again, I remember where I got sober, thought that was the answer. It wasn't. And it was several years later that I then discovered ADHD. I thought, that's the answer, that isn't. So I'm now, I've only known I've had ADHD for 2.5 years, something like that. And I really, really want to talk to you as like a you from the future coming back. Because one thing that I've realised is that even when I realised I had a drug and alcohol problem, when I learned enough about myself and how these things work to enable me to overcome it, when I realised I had ADHD and all the revelations that comes, that's an absolute giant leap in knowledge about myself. But it isn't until some years later that you get the sort of wisdom for it. I'm not saying that you have no wisdom. I guess what I'm saying is,
he's going to get there.
I really want to have a conversation with you, because I really want to tell you everything I've learned from the future in the hope that it might help. So anyway, and
he's learned a lot, as you can tell.
Yeah,
we're probably just even at the tip of the iceberg with you, aren't we? We could probably spend another.
Is this not the first part in a?
This is the first part in a 200-part series. Yeah.
Well, I tell you what, Matt, I'd always envisaged doing, like I say, the wreck. Yeah. On here, because my it's just the tagline of my Instagram is "Gaze upon the wreck that is my life and rejoice, for you are not me." And I saw this place. I've
pretty short,
made so
short handle for you,
but never got to it. So give me a few weeks, because I'm going to have to settle into a rhythm of going back to working out where I'm going to sleep.
We're going to get a studio. You're going to get a studio for your lamps, and then you can start doing the wreck.
I need to build a website. I need to keep all these prototypes I've built. I need to find.
Honestly, he's got some incredible lamps.
Mate, if
I've told him for ages he should put them on Instagram. He should do something with them.
Actually,
and he's got art pieces.
Yeah.
I've got his ways off now.
I'll show him one.
He's going to show you one. It's got one.
This came from a period at the end of last year.
You got a plug? You ain't got a plug, have you? It's not going to be long enough up there.
That's what she said.
Don't touch my. Oh, watch the camera.
Oh shit! Sorry if I completely fucked the.
No, you haven't, not yet.
Right.
Don't unplug that one.
Can't I?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, that's the light, isn't it? Fuck.
We're getting there.
Sorry guys, I thought this would be.
Either way, I can edit all this out.
The story of my life. I wonder if I unplug that.
Well, where's that going? Oh yeah, fine with that one.
Where's the right end of it? Sorry guys, bear with. You can edit all this out.
Yeah, I can edit all this out. I can't get this time back though.
No. Is that it?
Why don't you have any plugs?
Right, so that is.
Why don't you just take that black one out there?
Honestly, everyone's a fucking. Sorry, right. I hate it when other people come up with really obvious solutions. A few months ago,
Right, here we go. We got the lamp.
I struggled. I had to prioritise basically, and I had to pay the rent. and I didn't pay the electricity bill for 4 months. Lights went out. I had the money to pay what was the sort of difference, but they wanted 3 times as much in terms of fees and penalties and stuff, and it was I thought at that time absolute checkmate for me. Couldn't have the kids here, fridge full of rotting food, fish tank full of still with dead fish in it. Anyway, long story short, I had to live for a few weeks in the dark.
Didn't even notice the fire.
Yeah, well, it's because there's nothing in there. There's nothing moving in there. I basically had to get a handful of cheap battery-operated camping lamps and like builders' lamps and stuff. I cannot abide a naked bulb, no matter where it is in the room. So I then started looking at stuff I had lying around to try and diffuse that light. Long story short, I discovered a passion and interest for designing lights and lighting design and how it works, right? Luckily, most of the components for lamps are universal, and over here, people just trash stuff. So basically, every time someone throws away a light fitting, I grab it because I can cannibalize it. And now I experiment, I fuck around so that I can find prototypes to actually turn into a business. So that tulip lamp behind me, for example, that is one. I can refine that into a range: floor lamp, desk lamp, wall lamp, kids range in colours, more grown-up stuff like that. So this is just an example because it's the closest one that I had to hand. But this thing that looks like a sort of Hollywood spotlight, all these components were pretty much bits of other ones that I put together. This was part of another lamp. This is part of another lamp. Even the 3 tiers of this were parts of other lamps. And this is a ceiling hanging lamp that someone threw away that I thought I'd grab that. I need to put a copper fabric covered cable on it to zhuzh it up. But one thing I discovered in that time is if you take a light bulb and you spray paint the arse of it matte black, in loads of different backgrounds.
I don't know how much that camera's going to
Oh,
see.
sorry.
Yeah, you go.
Depending on the background, you can create this amazing effect that looks like a black hole. So that's going to be a range that I'm exploring. So that's what we mean when we're talking about lamps.
And yeah, that's one of, I'll be polite and say several.
Oh,
a million. More than several.
A million.
Yeah.
But it's that forms part of my future here, finally able to build life for myself, do something that I'm proud of and something that my kids are behind because they're creative.
David, he's very creative. I think he just needs to find a way to channel it, and obviously at the moment, and
in less words,
and in quicker time. No,
yeah.
But I think it's just where you have been the last few years. It's very hard for anyone, anyone to go through what you've been through and to still try and maintain or manage what it is you're trying to create with the lamps and with your the rec and everything like that. So I think once you get yourself settled again, you find a space that's yours and something that you can spend time in doing the things you love, and then you can start to feel a bit more secure and a bit more safe. And then once you feel that safety and security, you can start to expand your endeavor, because I think you're really talented. I some of the stuff you've told me you've done, and
I look much younger than I am as well.
Yeah, he does. That's just because he's got good lighting.
Yeah. Yeah, and the makeup helps as well.
Yeah, the makeup and the coke.
Yeah.
But no, you're really talented. I think you should do it, and I've said that to you the day I met you when you were showing me the oil paintings. You sort of
Banksified.
Yeah, Banksified. I think they're cool. Do you know what I mean? I think they would do really well. It's having that. It's just having the time, I think, for you right now.
Well, the thing is, though, honestly, since I moved here, it's been 4 years of basically there is not going to be safety or security. So I just have to keep on doing what I'm doing under the conditions, right? So at the moment, I'm throwing away everything, starting all over again, but I've managed to accumulate through gifts from other people, stuff that people have thrown away, every tool I need to build anything imaginable. And all this stuff, all of these light fittings and bulbs and stuff like, and bits of light fittings is everything I need in terms of the raw materials to not even have to take a break in developing this. But I'm just going to have to do it from, there's going to be a period of homelessness. But if I can find a way, somewhere where I can store all this stuff without having to lose it and start from scratch, and ideally a small space that's indoor with electricity to continue working on it. This is not take a break and rest and regroup, because I've been here for 4 years and the trend is undeniable. Well, that's not going to come. I just need to keep powering forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's going to be.
So if anyone out there with a storage space, a little studio space, let us know.
Absolutely. The problem is I have zero money. I mean, I literally, yeah. I mean, it's. I have.
We can pay in lamps.
Yeah. Well, actually, physical work, handyman,
Yeah.
cleaning. I spent most of last summer working as a cleaner, domestic cleaner as well.
Yeah, anyone that's in the creative scene.
But to begin with, I just need a space to be able to do this stuff, and it doesn't have to be big or fancy.
Just get the man a space.
I mean, 10 square meters, about 100 square foot, 10, 15 square meters with a roof over it and electricity is all I need. And I can work it off until I can pay it off. So
he's pretty good at dishes.
yeah, and if anyone's got any spare coke or meth or anything, I'll be using a PO box.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
I'll be using the PO box. Yeah.
We better wrap it up. There,
Yeah,
shouldn't we?
because my girlfriend's gonna be wondering where the fuck I am. I don't even know
Sorry,
if that's still
Lily.
recording.
Sorry, Lily. Oh fucking hell! And I probably knocked it off. He's probably looking.
Well,
at
that's what I see when you were running around. It was fucking. I was like, don't knock that over.
But the last 15 minutes have been fish tank full of quarters.
Yeah,
Sorry.
some floating skeletons.
Yeah.
But that's been a pleasure. We'll do it again, I'm sure.
Yeah, thanks.
Because there's so much more we
Appreciate
can talk about. But
I'm really glad we fitted this in.
so am I. It's been a long time. We think we were speaking it for summer last year, maybe August.
I have no concept of time
Yeah.
anymore.
When did I meet you? Yeah, it must have been summerish.
Oh, it was because we met at that
At the park.
Yeah, that was nice.
So,
But the reason why it's important to me is that I have realised, having tried and failed to do corporate stuff, I need to double down on the things that I can do. I did start a TikTok a little while ago, but we live in a talking head economy, and you can make money from building some sort of platform, starting my own thing like this. I have been trying and failing to do this for a couple of years now. So even just having someone else come in, do all of it for me, and all I have to do to talk is talk, and then go away and actually do it while I focus on finding somewhere to live. I can't. It's impossible for me to quantify to you the value and the improvement that makes to my life and prospects, and how the next few weeks are going to go, let alone the next few years.
well, I'm glad I could contribute in that way. I didn't realise it meant so much to you. So that means a lot for me as well. Then,
mate, it absolutely does. So thank you, and I'm sorry, Lily, but it was worth it. I'm sure you'll agree.
Yeah, you'll have me back soon. Yeah.
Anyway, don't forget Rich and Rock's Pink. You don't want everyone thinking that you're a bunch of huns.
Yeah.
Hannah.
What the fuck's her name again?
Send me a voice note. I so much I want to tell you. I'm not saying come on your show or anything. Just spare me an hour and we'll have a chat, and you never know, you might learn something from it, because I feel like it's me in your future able to go back to the past future. Just reach out if you're interested, but I don't blame you if you're not.
Well, that's it. Thank you very much, David.
Thank you.
And obviously we'll stay in touch, but hopefully we'll get another episode done.
Can I come and stay at your house tonight?
Mate,
No, I'm kidding. I'm with my kids in the
stay
mum's
at my
house.
fucking house anyway.
All right, thanks everyone. That's a wrap. Do we need to do the clap?
Oh, you do it on the thing.
All right, let's get fucking out of it. You should try and make that a thing.
Fucking hell, is it still recording? Is my phone still on?